influence.
Astronauts to the moon.
10, 9, ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Not to get off track here, but I feel like we're in the Truman Show, and we're in a snow globe, and they just shook it up.
Welcome to reality.
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to your protection from deception. That's right here at truthfrequencyradio.com and also streaming on the Jeranism YouTube channel. Hour one of the show, and you're all collectively tuned into the number one show on Truth Frequency Radio on Monday nights between the hours of 6 and 8 p.m. Pacific. That's 9 to 11 Eastern. That show is Jeranism Monday Night Raw, and it starts now. I'm your host, Jaron from Jeranism, and my co-host from across the plane is David Maldonado Weiss. David, what's going on?
I'm doing very well. I just made it back in the nick of time for the show, and Paige says that you need to change up your opening.
My intro? She doesn't like it?
Yeah. No, she likes it, but she says it's time for something new.
It's only been 3 years. I think I should go longer with it. Well, I like some of it and not other parts, but I do think it's funny to say that it's the number one show on Truth Frequency Radio, and then to have a little pause, and then say on Monday nights between the hours. I don't know if people get the joke, but it is the number one show on Truth Frequency Radio on Monday nights. It's also the only show, but we won't really mention that part.
Matt, I kind of stole that. Matt and I were recording the podcast at like 5 a.m. on Saturday, and I said, I'm glad to be back with my favorite co-hosts on the Flat Earth podcast.
Yeah, you get the point. You got it. Yeah. All right. So it's been a very interesting week. Did you catch Globebusters yesterday?
I did. It was a mind bender.
It is a mind bender. It is. No, I totally agree. I just think that you're a little bit quiet tonight, but
I am. My voice, I can turn up the volume.
Maybe just a hair. I mean,
is that any better?
Wow, it's much more Jewy, but it's not that bad.
I didn't know that was possible.
Oh, it's possible. Let me tell you, it can get worse. No, I mean, the whole thing with science, and this is kind of just what I've realized recently, is it's like a tightrope walker, right? So the goal when you're walking a tightrope is you can never look down at your feet, because as soon as you do, you realize that you're basically in midair, and that's when you fall a long way down. But as long as you look straight forward, you can always walk safely across. That's kind of how tightrope walking works, and that's how science works. Science is afraid to look down, is afraid to look at the foundations, and they're fine as long as they just keep their head forward and just keep moving and don't pay any attention to the detractors and don't look at the tightrope that you're walking, because if you do, you're going to realize you're a long way up and it's a long fall. So I just realized that that's how science operates, and if they dared look at their foundations and everything that science is built upon, oh boy, it'd be trouble for them. So, and I think we had some evidence of that yesterday on Globebusters. So check that out if you didn't hear it. It's addressing the ever-prevalent concern of flat earthers and geocentrists around, which is the whole idea of a gas pressure next to a vacuum. Simply, it's crazy talk, in my opinion. I don't know about you.
And the video you played from Curious Jay with Neil deGrasse saying, what was the quote he said? He goes, I'm not saying that gravity's holding it down, but it is.
Right. It's the worst quote. Yeah, doublespeak. Yeah. At one point he says, I'm not saying the Earth holds it down, but it does. And then just continues on.
Question.
You can ask me anything you want, sir.
Now, you said that Curious Jay was there, but we never heard him. Was he really there? And did he really have a sore throat? Or are you hiding his true identity that you don't want to share with people?
So his identity would have been known? No.
I'm going to share his identity right now.
Okay, tell us all.
It's Kurt Cobain.
Really? I didn't even realize that.
Know that, Jaron. It's time to share.
Shoot, I should. Yeah, well,
Curious Jay is Kurt Cobain.
Let me just say, it could or could not be. It may or may not be. I don't know. No, he was here. He came for the weekend. We watched the pretty awful wrestling pay-per-view yesterday. If anybody saw it, I have unfortunate news, Dave, that the current title holder, the Planet's champion, is still the champion. He did not lose, so we still. and now when he comes out, Dave, as if there couldn't be anything else in my face that just makes me hate this guy. He comes out, and behind him on the big screen, I'm sure you've seen a wrestling entrance with the Titantron. He comes out with a spinning globe. And he's the Planet's champion. And, of course, I mean, he fought in like a chamber match last night with 6 other opponents. But one of the guys that he's mainly going up against is the guy from that video that people remember, AJ Styles, who, he made fun of for being a flat earther. And, so this guy's a flat earther. Can't believe it.
Do you think that maybe they're trying to conjure their reality? Just like they do with all the drills, they conjure these things into existence.
Yeah, although they've been trying that for a long time. I mean, that's why I've always been the person. I know you have maybe a different belief about this, but a lot of people say you make your own reality, and I do agree with that to a certain extent. But where I don't is I say, well, if that was true, they had the whole world believing in these planets and orbits and everything else. So if everyone in the world believed that the sun is 93 million miles away, I don't think that would ever make the sun 93 million miles away. So that's where I draw the line when people say, oh, well, whatever people think or the collective human consciousness creates reality. I'm not somebody who thinks that, well, just because everyone on Earth believes that the sun's a certain distance away, that makes the sun that distance away. I don't think that's the case. But I think if you put it into schools like they've done so well, and you basically make it part of the indoctrination program, and then you start every movie with the rotating Earth into play, and then you can create in the consciousness of humanity that that's where they live, and I think they did an excellent job at that. But as far as making it reality, no, they didn't do a good job of that. I don't think it's reality.
Okay.
So we got a good show tonight for you guys. Again, the first hour will be live on my channel. If you want to follow the second hour on YouTube, you can click the link in the description to go to Ginger Sugarbush 915's channel, and you'll watch the second half there. Or you can just click the link also down there, which is tfrlive.com, and then just click Listen Live, and you'll pick up the second hour of the show there, so that should be fun. In the we're going to be taking a call here shortly, maybe keep it through the second or the first commercial to the end of the first hour. We're going to be joined by John, who is somebody who people who've listened to the show might have heard call in. He talks a lot about the stars and was trying to give us an overview of what he thinks, and it was a little hard to do over the radio. So last Tuesday or Wednesday, I don't remember which day it was, we had a short call with him, and I was like so intrigued by some of the things he was saying. I had called David and said, do you mind if I get David on this call? And then David jumped in, and it was an interesting conversation, yeah?
Yeah, it was. He's a very interesting guy, has a lot to say.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. Hey, before he comes on, can we promote the interview that's coming up within the next 2 hours? It's going to air.
I'm super excited. It's what I'm going to watch after this is over. Hopefully it comes out about that time. It sounds like a great thing to listen to as I get tired here towards the end of the night. Tell everybody what that interview is and where they can find it.
Yeah, it should come out probably maybe a half an hour after the show. He's working on it right now. It's Sean from the SGT Report YouTube channel. A lot of you are subscribed to him already. He does hard-hitting videos, well-produced on all the different topics, everything. And he had interviewed Marty Leeds and myself. And he basically has finally looked into the flat earth. He went down the path that we all did, refused to look at it, looks at it and realizes there's something there. He's a big fan of yours, Jaron. He has been watching a lot of your videos. He says hello.
Awesome.
And
hello to Sean.
So anybody, when it comes out, we'll post it everywhere. Subscribe to his channel and leave some flat earth love comments there. And help him fight off the onslaught of trolls that he will have, and the amount of people clicking the unsubscribe button.
Here they come. Now, if I'm not mistaken,
I say he's going to have a group of people unsubscribe, but he's now getting the largest, fastest growing, biggest group ever, which is the Flat Earth group, which will eventually be every single person on the plane.
That is so awesome. And if I'm not mistaken, doesn't he have 500,000 or more subscribers on that channel?
He's pushing 550,000 subs.
Wow.
That's what YouTube is showing us. It's probably even more than that. He's being highly suppressed and demonetized and everything. So, I appreciate his videos. They're really hard hitting. They get you to think, and you can show them to your sleeping friends, and their eyes will just glaze over and go, "Can I have some more fluoride, please?"
Yeah. More fluoride, and those are actually contrails in the sky. Those ones that stay up all day and through time lapse turn into clouds. That's just contrails.
There's more jet traffic now, Jaron,
right,
than there was in the 70s.
Yeah, I know that. I know that. I need to get that through my head. I'm sorry. Sorry for thinking on my own. I shouldn't do that. I should know that. Everybody check that out. That's on SGT Report, all one word. He's got a big channel, and that's always awesome. Anytime we can get Flat Earth more out there in the mainstream, I'm all for it. Dave, did I tell you, speaking of Flat Earth getting even larger, did I tell you that somebody recognized me? Can you believe it?
You did. I told the story, but do tell it again.
Well, I'll tell it real short that, Missa started working for DoorDash, if anybody knows what that is. It's just a food delivery app where she's a driver and we go pick up food. And for the first week, I was kind of helping her a little bit and just wanted to see myself, how the hell does this work? How can they even orchestrate this whole thing? Really good organization, and if you're looking for a job, I definitely recommend looking into it. It's something you can set your own schedule, and she seems to be making, at least so far, pretty good money. So it's going to help us out a lot. But I was out helping her, and we were sitting in front of Chipotle waiting for the next order. And some lady knocked on the window of my car. I'm like, what is this person doing? So I rolled down the window, and she's like, Jaron and Missa? We're like, yes. She's like, I love your stuff. I listen to your stuff all the time. So that was crazy, because if people remember the story, I don't know if I told it on Raw or where I told it, but when we were in Denver and I was circling around making sure the parking lot was empty, 3 people that were actually at the conference got into my car. And I just told them, hey, I'm just making sure to get all the, you stragglers so you can get to the billboard for the billboard meetup. And 3 people got in the back seat and we drove, and it took about 15 minutes to get to that billboard, if I remember. And it wasn't until right when we pulled up that they realized who I was. So even people in the back of my car talking to me about, they're like, it's so cool. We saw Mark Sargent. It's so cool. We saw Patricia and this and that. And I'm like, yeah, great. It's awesome. But they didn't recognize me until we got there, and they asked, do you have a channel? I said, yeah, my channel's Jeranism. And then they went, what? So
that's a great story.
Great story. They did not recognize me at all. And shout out to you guys. I believe they live back east. Don't remember exactly where. But, it was awesome to meet them. Also, a shout out. I talked to a gentleman, Bob. He knows who he is. I talked to him on the phone today. Awesome supporter of me and the channel, and really likes the work that we're doing. So we had a good conversation today. So shout out to Bob. Thanks for all that you do. And then also we want to talk about, real quick before we pick up the call, because it kind of coincides with it, let's talk about the Zodiac addition to the Flat Earth Sun and Moon Clock app.
Oh, how do you like it?
I love it.
I'm so proud of it.
Oh, man, I love it. It's beautiful. And a shout out I also want to mention Andrew, too, because I know Andrew does your artwork, and I'm always so impressed with the work he does. So,
yeah, so Andrew from Friends of Yahweh channel. He's the one that does all those great high-produced videos. Round and Curvy, I would say, is probably one of his signature videos.
One of my favorites. Mm-hmm.
And imitating the scientist in Antarctica, calling you out. That
Absolutely
was great. When
fantastic. That happened. Great stuff.
And Tilt the Marshmallow Charlie, one of my favorites.
Absolutely. He's got some gems.
Yeah, so Andrew did all of the artwork on the calendar. So on the app, and where it's out on iOS. There's an update coming again tomorrow for the iOS people, and I believe that Android may be published tomorrow, if not the following day. So sit tight, people. It's good. And now we're looking, and maybe we'll talk to John about this, is adding planets.
Yeah, let's definitely talk to John about that, because I think it would be awesome if we could, and it kind of boggles my mind. And, when we started talking to John last week in the private call that we had, he was boggling my mind even more, and just the understanding of the sky is even more clear, so I hope that we can kind of convey that tonight. For those listening on YouTube, you'll be able to see, I'm going to put up an image that's going to kind of help us with John. He's going to kind of talk us through it a little bit. So I'll put that up here in a second, and then I will also load it into the TFR chat if I can. So everybody should be able to see, if you're have any way of looking at the screen if you're on TFR. If you're listening on the radio or iHeartRadio, you'll have to go to my channel to see the image that we're talking about. But let me go ahead and put that on the screen now. So yeah, really interesting. But let's go ahead and bring John on. Did you have anything else you want to talk about before we get to that? So everybody, just to make sure, everybody has the update with the Zodiac on their phone, correct?
No, on iOS. Only Apple has the update. So here's the other thing. Sometimes it takes Apple a little while to tell you there's an update. So if you don't have the Zodiac on your phone and you're not being notified of an update on Apple only, delete the app and then re-download it and you'll have it. Okay? Android, I'm beta testing a final version hopefully tomorrow morning. If so, it'll be uploaded. Worst case scenario, by Wednesday, you'll have it for Android.
Okay, sounds awesome. Yep, I have it on mine, and it's amazing to watch. It's great the way the button works. I love everything about it. So yeah, as we said, you may have heard this voice before. Let me pull him on to the phone call if I can here, and let's see. He's in the area code. Let me see there. John, can you hear us? John O.
Yeah, how are you?
Great, glad to have you on the show again.
Hey, John.
Great to be here.
Good.
Hey, Dave. What's up, man?
Hey, man.
So I guess can you just start off by telling everybody how you got into this, flat Earth concept and where you began? Because I think that's an interesting story that it didn't start like most of us, that you were into the sky long before any of us. So go ahead and just tell people who you are and how you got into this line of research.
Thanks, Jaron. Yeah, my name's John O. I got a YouTube channel called Truth, Love, and Freedom. There's not much on there, but I've been a truth seeker for a while. I lived overseas for a while, came back and got married in 2005. And after that time, I had a lot of questions. I had some friends that were going through some physical conditions at young ages, and 2 of them passed away. And it made me question a lot of different things that I had understood about my health and about life in general. And that's kind of where my truth-seeking began, was more in the health side of things. And, of course, that led me not too far right into 9/11. And, that was 3 years of my life studying the conspiracy side of things and understanding some of those things. And little by little, things got back into a spiritual point of view, and I got into astrology. I was tired of everything on TV. There was nothing there for me anymore. So I decided to just go outside and look at the black screen of the sky and watch the lights of the heavens light up the sky. And I sit out there all hours of the night. I don't sleep a ton. I never have. I'm kind of a night owl and an early bird at the same time. And I just kept watching the sky, and I saw patterns that I had never learned about. And I started studying astrology, and little by little, the flat Earth came out. And actually 2 years before it did, I had a friend tell me the Earth was fixed. And I thought he was crazy, and he put me on some website, and it was a big religious thing, and I just couldn't get into it. But little by little, I started to learn from videos from you guys and others about some of the concepts that were in the flat Earth, and they just matched perfectly with the astrology and a lot of the other elements of my studies, in music and different things. They all had this synchronicity that just lined up perfectly. And that was what really kind of brought me deeper and deeper into the flat Earth, was not just the science of it, but also just the philosophical side, that I feel that many of us lack things today, and some of what we lack is the truth that's being deceived from us, right? So as I started to learn of these things, it really filled in some gaps of why people might feel that they're very much on unsteady ground. Right? Because
Absolutely.
The ground they're on is spinning and moving, but in reality, it's still, they just don't realize it, and how that plays on our minds.
No, I totally agree. And also, just, I do have that image up on the live stream, and I did drop it in the TFR chat. So if at any time you want to refer to that
Awesome.
image, just so you know it's up.
Yeah.
John, I agree with that
Okay,
statement that if you think you're spinning, you really won't have your feet planted on the ground, because your belief creates your reality. Two people can be in the same dark alley. One of them believes that they're going to be raped, murdered, and eaten by a lion. The other person knows it's completely safe.
Yeah.
They're going to have different experiences.
Now, in that case, Dave, I do agree that people do create their reality. See, in that case, that's where it does work. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, you're right, Jaron, about what you said earlier. On a personal level, we're creating that reality, but there's a reality that exists in common, right? And that reality is something that is fixed. It is solid. We're not changing the heavens and the earth apart from our influence. And that influence, although is destructive, it's not changing day and night, right?
Right.
Every day is day and every night is night. We're not changing that. There's something about this world that is solid, even in the midst of all of its movement, you know? So I'm with you on that completely. We don't create reality, but we do create our reality. You know?
Absolutely. And especially when you talk about
we can look at this. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, when we talk about the indoctrination of children and everything that we're getting at, that's where, you know, everybody's reality was immediately shifted to that heliocentric, you know, you're just a speck of dust in this ever expanding, ever growing, you know, space paradigm. You know, that was and is most people's reality. So it just kind of comes down to semantics, what exactly we're talking about. You know, it doesn't mean that just because everybody believes that they live on a globe that they actually do, but if that's your pure belief that you grow up with, and even though it's just a philosophical idea, and it's, you know, the problem is scientists have such a severe philosophical bias, and the reason why is simple, because philosophically these guys, they don't want there to be a center, let alone it be the earth. They don't want any prime importance placed on the earth. They don't want to ever even consider that, and so they steer science away from it in every possible moment. And I like the ideas of astrology because I believe that the stars are so much closer, and they definitely have an influence on the earth. And the way that they've done it, they've made them so far away that there's no influence in the possible. You know, the closest star being 25 trillion miles away. It's ridiculous.
Exactly. And I love how you showed, you know, some of that information in the past. It's so good. And we know it is more of an electromagnetic universe that we're in. So that makes so much more sense. That these things do have a power. And from my experience of studying astrology, and we'll keep it more with the science of how the stars move tonight, but just studying the actual effect of those stars upon our person, I find that from the moment you leave the dark waters of the womb and you enter into the light of day, at that very moment, there's a connected energy that you have with your time. And that energy never leaves from the beginning of your time to the end of your time. And only you are fixed in that time, because only you were born in the very space that you were born at the very time you were born. So even with the twin, there's a difference there. And this exact signature can be found in the signature of the sky at the moment of your birth. And that is a literal connection in some manner. And that connection, of course, is so large that it goes beyond the degree of our understanding, and we can't prove everything about it, but we can see so many patterns in the piece that we can see, if that makes sense. But the more you look at it, if you just look at what time of year you were born, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, that's going to speak about your person. And the more detailed you look at... Yes, sir.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Finish what you were saying, then I'll jump in. Go ahead.
I'm just saying, the more detailed you look at your moment, the more detailed you look at your time, the more you'll be able to get out of that design. And that design's not a destiny, it's a design, if that makes sense.
My entire life, I laughed at astrology, just saying, you know, how can the position of one of these distant rocks and, you know, ultra distant stars affect who you are? But once, you know, now that I understand that, you know, everything is close and energetic and connected, it makes so much sense. We don't understand it, but we can see that it does affect us. It is the matrix that we are within, and just, you know, if you believe that we live in a heliocentric world, you know, as described, and you believe in astrology, you might be an idiot.
Yeah, but we're all just misled, It's
Right.
deceived and misled is where we are, And that's where, to come back to the beginning, I'm not coming on the show as if I know anything tonight. The one thing I've learned is that the more I realize there is to know, and the more my knowledge just shows the space that I don't know yet. It's all it does is it just shines a light on more of the picture that I don't know. It doesn't necessarily remove the ignorance. It just helps me understand my ignorance better, But with this picture that you put up there, Jaron, if we look at that picture, it's basically showing a centered Earth, which if you look at, just look at your clock on the wall or your watch on your wrist.
Well, hold on one second, just
disc
because,
with a center point.
John, wait 1 second.
Yeah,
and
sure.
the reason I say that is because we do have a break coming up in about a minute and a half.
Commercial.
And
Yeah.
we'll go to the commercial. And then when we get back, we'll focus on that particular image. But one thing I just wanted to mention when we were talking about astrology real quick is, of course, the quote by J.P. Morgan, who once famously said that millionaires don't need astrologers, but billionaires do. People can believe that that's just in jest, or he's just saying it however he wants. But I'll tell you, being a bookseller and owning an online bookstore one time, that one of the most often requested books was a book called, now I can't remember the name of it. It was Playing the Market by the Stars or something like that. But it was even a PDF book that was $8,000 just for the PDF. That
Wow.
and you'd think that usually you can find stuff like that online. I had so many people contact me through my chat on my website saying, "Hey, is there any way you can get me a cheap copy of this book?" I probably had 10 to 15 people ask for that specific book, and if you look it up on Amazon, it's $8,000. That's pretty incredible.
It's amazing.
Hey, everybody, during the break,
Yeah.
go stretch your legs, go outside and look at the full moon. If you're not sure where it is, open up your app, and you'll know right where it is.
Beautiful. Yeah, let's go look at the stars. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to
Full moon
Jeranism
tonight.
Monday Night Raw.
You see the truth and you feel betrayed.
10 a.m. in the morning, exactly.
A price to life. Cause if we're really just gonna die, I'd rather let it go. Stay in school, they said. Use your tools, they said. But be
Extendivite is more than just a heart tonic. Do you have any of these symptoms? Night cramps in the hands and feet. Your arms and legs often go to sleep. On short walks, do your legs get aches and pains? Is your memory worse than it used to be? Ankles that swell late in the day? Has your blood pressure increased lately? If you answered yes to even one of these questions, you may have early warning signs of
We're
arterial
getting into this next picture.
Your body is saying that it is time to take Extendivite. These are not the normal signs of aging. They are the warning signs that accompany
We're going to talk
block.
about the stars now.
Get your
We're talking a little
Extendivite
bit about
today.
how I got
Extendivite
into
is
flat
available
Earth,
in capsule or liquid
and
form
then
for
goes like a little bit about
$69.95 for a 2-month
and
supply.
then we talk
To get
about,
started, call
astrology in
1-877-928-8822.
Dave was saying, like, I never would believe in astrology. Like, how could some
877-928-8822
rock
or visit
trillions of miles away affect
heartdrop.com.
me? He goes, but then I started learning how, like, they're not rocks and they're not stars. Now it's like it makes sense.
Poor
But he
water
never studied
quality
it.
is a
It
major
makes
health
so
issue,
much
and it's
sense.
only getting worse.
And then Jaron, he has a
Municipalities can't
bookstore.
keep up. Standards
He said
have
one of the most
dropped, and
requested books he
pollutants
ever
are
had
increasing.
was this
Where does it
PDF,
all
which is
end?
just online.
It ends
So,
by
I mean, just
keeping
on
the
computer or
pollutants
whatever, right?
outside of your home with HydroCare's advanced systems available at Wave Home
Playing the
Solutions.
market
No
by the
less than the
stars.
best purification materials and
Because it's
processes been developed by
$8,000.
HydroCare to provide you with healthy, clean water for drinking, cooking, and showering. HydroCare
people
far
want it all day
surpasses
and
the
night.
competition in removing
And
chlorine,
then he goes, and that's why there's that quote
iron,
from the billionaire
lead,
Warburg who
chemicals,
owns
fine
Chase
scale,
Manhattan
and
all
much
that stuff.
more.
His
Don't
family,
settle
he
for
said,
less when it comes to
millionaires don't
water.
use
We'll
astrology,
take care of the
billionaires.
toughest water problems for
That's
you,
his
whether
quote.
it's from a city
So
or
Jaron
well
brought that
source.
quote up. And he's like,
Satisfaction
so they're
guarantee.
trying to, like,
For
tell
more
people, like,
information,
this is,
call
I know those quotes.
888-997-WAVE. That's
That's cool.
888
Now we're gonna get into, like, the
997
sky.
WAVE. Or go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Wave Home Solutions, a healthy, comfortable home.
We exist in the security and comfort of our worlds. Paved paths, lights, and manicured lawns give us peace of mind that our world has been tamed, and we are its master. But other worlds exist on the edge of our sight. On the edge of our awareness, the shadows move. The woods fill with the unblinking eyes of the nightmares our ancestors warned us about. Some of us have stumbled into these forgotten realms, whether on purpose or by surprise. I'm Brent Thomas. Join us on the Paranormal Portal Friday and Saturday nights from 10 p.m. to midnight Pacific Standard Time as we journey into the world of the paranormal phenomenon.
Enter the Paranormal Portal, if you dare.
We are TFR.
My faith in destiny is all I need to prevail.
Truth Frequency Radio.
All right, welcome back. You are listening to Jeranism Monday Night Raw, and I just got in from looking at the stars and the moon, and then I saw in the chat that people were saying that John's mic was on and he was talking during the commercial. So, John, if you said anything bad about me, I'm sure you didn't mean it, right? I don't know what was said. I was outside. But
I did not mean it. I did not.
All right, so I got the image up, and go ahead and continue off where you were before I rudely interjected.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, no matter what timepiece we have, like, not digital, but the analog clocks that we have, they always have a center point, and they're always circular, and they have a hand that goes around them. Whether it's a moon clock, a sun clock, whatever it might be. Just like an astrolabe has a flat disc and a stereo graphic image of a hemisphere above it, in the same way, these things have come from the sky. That's where we learn these things, is people looking up at the sky got to understand how time works. And we can understand that on a concept of a day is simply the sun coming and then going, so we know a day. And little by little, they've shrunk our time down into this calendar where we can keep this amazing clock of the sky going on this 365 and a quarter, and it will keep all the relationships the same throughout that year. So that's come from the sky. The picture that we put on there is just basically a center point of heaven with the 88 constellations that are the 88 constellations of the sky shown. And, obviously they're connected, so those lines aren't there, but the stars are still fixed in relationship to one another in the sky. And they've put that into 88 constellations. So as those constellations, every day they make a full turn. And that turn is centered at the North Pole, at the North Star Polaris. And every day they make a turn, and in NASA world, that's called a sidereal or sidereal day. And that's 23 hours and 56 minutes. And that's how long it takes for the constellations to make a full circle. And this picture here is showing you those 88 constellations. And then it has a few different points, and one of those points is called the ecliptic or the zodiac wheel. In the Bible, it was called the Mazzaroth. There's all different words that we've used for it, but it's basically a circle in the sky that is the same size as the equator and 23.4 degrees off-center from the North Pole. And that off-centered circle is the circle by which the sun, moon, and the stars that we know as planets, dwarf planets, even centaurs and asteroids as NASA has defined them, whatever these bodies are in the sky, I don't pretend to know what they are, but whatever they are, they follow that circle in the sky. And that circle doesn't actually move. It's just all the stars in the sky that are constellated make a circle. And part of that circle is that zodiac circle. In Jeremiah in the Bible, it's called the wheel in the wheel. This is kind of the picture that there's a wheel inside of a wheel, and that wheel is the zodiac wheel, and that's where the sun, moon, and stars go around. The funny thing is they actually go the other way around in that circle, which is the interesting thing that I began to learn. Before I learned about the flat earth, I didn't know. So I was a stupid person that still believed in the helio-noncentrical model, even though I knew astrology. But little by little, as soon as I learned of flat earth, I was like, well, this makes all the sense in the world, because the only way anything I've learned makes sense is that I'm in the middle of it and I'm not moving. So,
absolutely.
Which is what we know of the earth, right?
And I think it's unbelievable,
it's, cool.
It's incredible, and great to hear and find out that, as you said, that the blue set of stars, the zodiac, is offset by exactly 23.5 degrees, which, again, if you're on the ground and you need to give a reason, then the reason has just been switched now to saying, oh, well, the earth is tilted at 23.5 degrees, when actually it's the sky.
Exactly.
So,
and just the way that it is off-centered, it makes the Tropic of Capricorn. When people say the Tropic of Capricorn, all they're talking about is, if you look at that blue circle, the outside edge that's furthest from the center, that edge of the circle is where Capricorn meets Sagittarius. And at that point, that's the furthest point the sun ever gets in that circle, and that's when it makes the largest circle around the earth every day, that we call our winter time, where we are.
Right. So December,
in the northern hemisphere.
So in December, the sun would be in Sagittarius.
Yeah, it starts in Sagittarius, and and then it goes into, on December 20th or 21st or 22nd, it moves into Capricorn, and it remains in Capricorn through January 20-something, and then it moves to Aquarius and so on, which is interesting because in astrology, the Capricorn is the father. It's the number 10, and it's interesting that we begin and end our year in Capricorn, which is the darkest time of year. It's kind of the womb of the year, if that makes sense. Those 3 days of darkness, that's the funny thing. When the sun gets to the Tropic of Capricorn, it remains there for 3 days and 3 nights with only 1 minute of change in its return forward. And that time is where a lot of these stories of the sun going away for 3 days and 3 nights, it probably comes from that big sun in the sky that everybody can see go away for 3 days and 3 nights, So this is where that story comes from. And it's pointing to, this is the beginning. This is actually the womb of the year, when life begins, before life begins, before the springtime comes the winter. And this is that time. So all these things make sense on a very physical and also spiritual level. And if it doesn't make sense on both, I don't really accept it much. It's got to have harmony to work.
No, I totally agree. And real quick, I'm just transitioning the image for everyone to see the Flat Earth Sun and Moon Clock app, so you can see the zodiac on the screen there. I'll play that for a little bit, so you can see how this all rotates. There you go. And so these stars here, the zodiac that's rotating.
Wait
on
a minute,
the screen.
I don't see it, Jaron.
Oh, it should be there in a second. Might just be behind. There's a little bit of a delay, I think. But I just have your video up playing. Still not showing?
I do not see. Oh, there it is.
Okay.
Just came in.
There you go. So I was just showing everybody. I'll rewind it just one more time, just a little bit, just showing the zodiac and how that all spins. And then, so remember, those zodiac signs are the constellations that are located within the blue set of stars, which you can see here. So yeah, go ahead and continue talking a little bit. I guess describing how the sun makes its way through those stars would be great.
Yeah. So basically, the way that the sun works, and you were talking earlier about adding planets to the zodiac, and that certainly can be done. When you look up astrology, you'll see that you can create a natal chart from the current time. And that current chart will show you exactly where, the different planets, Mars, Venus, Mercury, Jupiter, Saturn, and however far you want to go, where they are at that present time. And they have their kind of the plane that they move in. They have their kind of pattern in which they move in and their speed in which they move, and each one's a little bit different, and that's why we have different actions. So the sun, it's on a flat plane in the sky. The moon is 5 degrees tilted. So the moon is at times 5 degrees below the sun's path, and at other times 5 degrees higher. But the sun, it's always on the same level. And that sun is just slowly moving at about a degree a day, a little less than that, through that circle. And that circle is also moving every day around the earth, and that's why we see the sun seem to go around the earth, but all the sun's really doing is slowly moving through that zodiac circle. So if you tend to hear about sun sign astrology, which is kind of a disconnected piece of it, but nevertheless, people understand that part of it. They know that right now the sun is in Aquarius, and the sun is soon to move into Pisces. And if we look at that in the sky, we see the sun is actually going in a counterclockwise or westerly direction, even though every day it's going around the earth in the opposite direction. And
John, I have a question.
We regularly see.
I have a question. So recently in designing this app, I really never comprehended exactly how when they say the sun is in that sign, how does that work? And now I fully get it because it's just circling with it. So the sun takes, 30 days or give or take to go through a sign, which makes, the sign is outrunning it by 15 degrees, whatever, in that period of time. The moon, however, plows through these things, in 2 or 3 days at a time. Because it's going.
That's right.
Does where the moon, what sign the moon is in, is that a big thing in astrology, or is that not paid attention to as much?
Absolutely. No, absolutely. In true astrology, which existed before 1959, 1963, sometime in between that, sun sign astrology, which is what little we know is about sun sign astrology, and sun sign astrology was just made for newspapers because they couldn't fit everything into the newspaper. So some guy was like, well, something's better than nothing. So he came up with the idea, well, let's just put the sun sign in there. And it's easier to fit on a page. And it was a genius idea. It made them a lot of money. Unfortunately, it opened the door for them to just even more water down what astrology is. So what the sun sign astrology does show, though, is that where the sun is. And like you said, it's there for a month. The moon, where that is just as important, if not more. The sun reveals a little bit about how you live, but the moon reveals a little bit about how you feel. It's more the inside. Just like we've learned that the sun is the same size as the moon, relatively speaking, within reason. There's not much of a difference in size. We see that on the eclipse and so on and so forth. In the same way, I think that's a big problem that we have in life, is we can't balance life because we don't realize that the feminine energy is just as important as the masculine energy, the sun being the masculine and the moon being the feminine.
So looking at the
feminine energy, just like Dave said, it goes around way faster than the sun. It's going way faster. It's going around every 2.5 days. It's going through a sign.
Are you saying that a feminine energy is changing radically so fast that you never know what they're thinking?
There you go, right? Well, you could always draw these conclusions, Dave. I'm not going to say that, no.
I said that offline to me earlier.
Women can run circles around us, right? Women can run circles around us. I can say that.
You can say that.
But
wait,
anyhow,
let me ask you just one more dumb question, and I'll let you continue. So let's say the moon is in Aquarius or whatever it is for those 2 days.
Yeah.
Can you? Is it safe to assume that in the following months, during the 2 or 3 days that it's in Aquarius, that you'll have similar feelings, energy, things happening? Is there a correlation? Is it that well correlated where you can actually see, these patterns reappear when the moon is in the specific sign?
Yes, but this changes by degree within different people at different times and different cycles of their lives. We know, like, my mom's a nurse and my sister as well, God bless them, but these kind of people, they work in hospitals and they always make note of the full moon, right? They may be Bible stompers who think astrology is devil worship, but nevertheless, they're going to recognize that on the full moon, things get freaking crazy up in here, So they can see this relationship. And what I'm saying is the more conscious you become of these relationships, the more you will see them. Now, is it ever cut and dry where I can say, I know how Dave's feeling tonight? Well, I have to be careful of presumption, because there are many layers to your nature, and you are one of a kind. So I don't know everything about you, and I can't pretend to, even though I may understand a lot about someone that may be in a similar thing. Just like you might assume to know a lot about a 40-year-old white man because you're a 40-year-old white man, but that doesn't mean you know anything about the guy you're talking to. If that makes sense.
So I guess the one part that people might be confused at, and maybe I'll use my mouse to kind of show people, hopefully this is showing on the live stream, I can't tell, as I can't look at both screens.
Yeah.
But so what you're saying is this entire disk of stars turns once a day or once every 23 hours, 56 minutes, correct?
Yes, fixed. It doesn't. Yeah, imagine it like an upside down bowl in the sky, right? And that bowl is spinning, or a flat plane above some kind of force field that makes it look rounded. I don't know what it is, but basically there's a flat disk of stars above us, and that flat disk of stars turns constantly at a rate of 23 hours and 56 minutes for 360 degrees. So that's the rate of that.
Correct.
Within that dome of stars is a circle that appears as the zodiac wheel. And that circles within all those other stars and moving with them, not separate from them, but with them. And within that circle, we see the sun, moon, and planets, we could call them. And that is what Dave was talking about earlier when they say the sun is in Aquarius. It means when you look up at the sun, it would be in Aquarius. Now, of course, you can never tell that because wherever the sun is, you can't see the stars.
Right.
Right? So the way that you can tell that is by knowing where the moon is or where the sun is near and so on and so forth. And this is the whole study of astrology where it's born, is understanding these patterns.
Hey,
the cool thing is they do understand the patterns, but they hide the truth from us. That's all.
John, Anthony Riley in the chat has been asking, what is your opinion on the moon? Is it within the firmament? Is it in the sky? Is it physical? Do you have a thought on that?
Yeah.
Or okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't really have a thought of the matter that makes the sky. Obviously, there is some component of these stars that is matter, okay? In other words, it's not gas, it's not water, and it's not air alone. There's something of it that makes it stay a hold of the way it does what it does. So to me, there has to be a component of matter in some level. I could be wrong, but nevertheless, I would think there is something there, but I have no idea what that is. The one thing I would say from my studies is that in almost every of the old cultures that had a knowledge of these things, they show the moon being the closest to us. Now, when they show that image, I don't know how to translate that. I don't know if that just simply means the moon is moving the fastest because we see the moon is moving the fastest of the big bodies. Or do they mean that the moon is somehow closer in some way that allows it to appear to be faster to us as we look at it from our point of view, our perspective? I don't know how that works, so I can't really answer Anthony. And I love Anthony's work. He does great work, too.
Well, it seems kind
of... I don't know.
Wouldn't it make sense that the moon would appear larger when it's at a portion of this blue circle that is nearer to you?
Yeah, absolutely. That would be what that would be translated at is where the zenith of the moon is, right? So where the height is. If I've lived my whole life up in Massachusetts before I went overseas, and then I moved back and I moved to South Carolina. So now I'm on the 33rd degree latitude. So when I'm here, I see totally different than I used to see up north, and that's really helped me understand it too. Just to know. Yeah, you're right. The moon does, and the sun appears to be closer to over my head at times of the year here than it would have if I was up north. Okay, but
and so I guess the other thing that I want to.
But you're right, Jaron. That circle's not moving. So, yeah, if you live under it, you're always going to be living under that part of it.
And I think what people may not get, and it took me a while to get, is that when you kind of picture this whole disk of stars moving, and of course this goes clockwise, that from our perspective, we're going to see the sun travel counterclockwise through these blue stars, correct? And it would take a year for them to get back to the start.
Exactly. And we're not going to notice that when we're not paying any attention, right? So if you stop people from observing the sky, well, then you just out-science them already because they can't even get to step one, right? So that's basically what they've done. We passively look up at the sky, and we think the moon has something to do with nighttime, which the moon's got something to do with daytime just as much as nighttime.
Right.
So that's stupid. And then we believe that the sun is going the way we think when it's not. It's not going down. It's just going away from us, and it's not actually going the direction it's going. The whole sky's going that direction, and it's going with it. What's phenomenal about the planets, what's different about them, is that they resist that flow.
Right.
They have a resistance to it, and they're going the other way. How they're doing that, I don't know yet, but I'm very interested, for sure.
And so just so people see like what we're talking about, if here you can see my mouse, I've got it here. I think probably this is near Capricorn. And if you picture now this whole disk of stars spinning, you would see the sun make an outer track through here in one day. And if we then instead put the sun here, which would be the northern summer, probably June, then if you picture the circle that the sun would take here, it would take this inner circle. And so wherever the sun is throughout this blue set of stars, the zodiac, you can picture there being from there a circle that the sun would take within this whole disk of stars. But of course, the sun remains in this blue set, which is offset by, you guessed it, 23.5 degrees. So,
exactly. And that's why you also see the analemma, because the sun's making that circle throughout the year as that circle's made. And when you plot that out, that's where you get the analemma, with the outside being longer than the inside. So it's all there. It's amazing. And a lot of this stuff gets, I think ignorance is our biggest enemy. You know, we make all these things to be our enemy, but it's just, we don't know. None of us know everything, and everything's connected. So we really don't know anything then, you know?
Right.
And I think that's what sets us apart from a lot of people, is that a lot of truthers are open, but flat earth truthers, they're not only open, but they're going after it, and they're going to prove what they believe to be true as knowledge, or they're going to dump it. And that's what I love about it, and I hope that we can continue with that, because I think there's a lot of things we need to dump. I think the idea of a Satan, the idea of an embodiment of evil, I think this is something that we need to dump. And there's a lot of things that go into that affect people's minds as well. And this is
right. Now then that goes into
really what we're fighting for.
Right. That goes into the whole idea of, you know, if you believe it, then that can become part of your reality, and you'll start to attribute certain things to certain forces, certain beings, if you want. And so basically, so people gather it, the sun is moving. If you look on a day-to-day basis, it would be progressing in a counterclockwise motion of about 1 degree per day. So as I'm moving my mouse here, you'll see that each day that you looked at the sun, as this whole entire disk is spinning clockwise, the sun appears to go counterclockwise like this, day by day by day, and it would be, you know, about 1 degree a day, correct?
Yeah, and then the moon is doing 12.5 degrees more than the sun every day.
Correct.
So that's why the moon is doing this 12 or 13 times. One interesting thing about the full moon tonight, and I hope this translates well, but one interesting thing about the full moon tonight is every full moon there's always a full moon in opposition to the position of the sun. So every season, the sun right now is in Aquarius, the full moon will be in Leo, opposite of Aquarius. The interesting thing is that the moon that actually technically happens at 9:47 a.m. tomorrow, that moon is in Virgo, but the sun is in Aquarius. The interesting thing, even though there's that odd moon out, there's still going to be a moon in Pisces. There already was a moon in Aquarius, and next year there'll be 13 moons to catch back up again. And these are the things that are unbelievable to learn, that the full moon is always opposite the sun, because it has to be. We now know that on a physical level. But there's also an energetic correspondence and these opposites and why they attract and so on and so forth. And there's a lot of information here that we can take to people on a lot of different levels to bring them to this. Because one thing I'm convinced of is even the scientist did not choose to believe his worldview because of science. Most of the time he believed it because of his parents, because of his culture, because of his nation, because of his beliefs. And a lot of these things we know have been severely manipulated in all of our lives.
Yeah, awesome. And I see somebody send a super chat of how can I call you? You can call into the show if you want. Get in line. We are going to be taking calls the second half. That phone number is 213-233-3998. I'll put that on the screen, 213-233-3998. And again, you'll have to either click the link in the description to follow us for hour 2. John, you have about a minute. Any final words before we let you go? Appreciate you being on, though. It's been awesome.
I thank you for the opportunity, Jaron. And
do you have any sites where people can follow you or can find some of your other work, or do you have anything like that, Instagram or something?
I would say my main thing that I do is on Instagram. I'm called Shoreland Fellow, so ShorelandFellow at Instagram. So that's my Instagram, and I do have, like I said earlier, Truth, Love, and Freedom on YouTube is my thing. I do have a video on there. I took the information from No BS or whatever they're called, and they did the time and date conversion to the flat Earth map, and I took that and I showed on the seasons where the sun is in that zodiac wheel. I tried to. It's not the best video, but
okay. And
so
that's
I have a few things out there, but most of it is my writings that are on my Instagram at Shoreland Fellow.
Okay, and Truth, Love, and Freedom is the YouTube, so I will make sure I put that in the description so people can check out that video if they want. But yeah, John, and let people leave a comment on this video if they want to hear more from John. We would love to have him back on the show if he wants to tell us a little bit more, but really appreciate you being on.
My pleasure, Jaron. Thanks for all you do, and thank you, Dave.
All right, man. Thanks for coming on.
All right, guys, we'll be right back with the second half. You can click the link or go to Ginger Sugar Bush 915's channel, 915's channel. I don't remember what channel it is. Check out the links in the chat. Don't go anywhere.